Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund, IMF, Christine Lagarde, says Caribbean countries now in deep economic problems need not fear asking the IMF to intervene.
Ms. Lagarde made the comments as leaders from across the region met in Jamaica for a high-level IMF forum. TVJ's Athalia Reynolds-Baker has more.
Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund, IMF, Christine Lagarde, says Caribbean countries now in deep economic problems need not fear asking the IMF to intervene. IMF Chief Christine Lagarde, who was speaking earlier today at a high-level Caribbean forum at the Jamaica Pegasus Hotel, said Caribbean countries with high debt must implement well-designed fiscal rules similar to the IMF program in Jamaica for the past 4.5 years.
And I know that some of the Caribbean countries present in the room are thinking about it, and some of them have them now. Well-designed fiscal rules can help guide consolidation efforts. And indeed, such a rule targeting a reduction in public debt to 60% of GDP over the medium term has been introduced in the region in several countries.
Countries such as Trinidad and Tobago and Barbados have high debt levels, unsustainable current account deficits, and dwindling foreign reserves, but have shied away from engaging the IMF. Others such as Jamaica, Grenada, and St. Kitts and Nevis have implemented IMF programs with great success. Ms. Lagarde says these countries must be held up as examples.
And the experience of these countries, which has been in the main very successful, can provide a good example for other countries in the region.
She went on to praise the Economic Program Oversight Committee, EPOC, and the way it built consensus around Jamaica's IMF program, indicating that those countries in the region contemplating an IMF program could follow that body's lead, because with it, Jamaica has seen success despite doubts.
You know, sometimes those who 4 or 5 years ago were saying the program is going to be very difficult, it's uncertain whether it will work, and there were many of those negative thinkers around, well, they have been proven wrong.
Athalia Reynolds-Baker, TVJ News.
Meanwhile, addressing the opening ceremony, Prime Minister Andrew Holness called for greater cooperation from Caribbean countries in dealing with common issues. TVJ's Dashan Hendricks has that story.
Unleashing growth and strengthening resilience, the theme of the high-level IMF Caribbean Forum, which started in Kingston on Thursday. And there, Prime Minister Andrew Holness giving food for thought to his Caribbean colleagues, touching on topics from security to growth and the impact of climate change on the region. Mr. Holness was clear about one thing: effectively tackling a multitude of external shocks, such as hurricanes, which devastated several islands this year, require more collaboration and cooperation in the region.
The background reality is that given the scale and the ferocity of these naturally occurring phenomena, with economic impact measured in double and triple-digit units of GDP, the Caribbean will, for the foreseeable future, be dependent on external response capacity.
He said given that reality, demands from the Caribbean for external help can stretch world powers, so he wants to see countries in the region cooperating more. He pointed out that with the Caribbean Disaster and Emergency Management Agency, CDEMA, and the Caribbean Catastrophe Risk Insurance Facility, CRIF, some amount of cooperation is happening, but he said far more needs to be done. One area Mr. Holness said the Caribbean could improve cooperation in is the free movement of labor.
It becomes a particular concern when viewed against the backdrop of natural disasters. Can you imagine a sustained economic fallout in our sister islands? How will those economies recover if there is not a mechanism, a framework to allow free movement of labor, even temporarily, to help as part of the recovery and relief?
But that's not the only area of cooperation he raised. Mr. Holness said organized crime, the international narcotics trade, and arms smuggling are becoming significant threats to countries in the region, and these too must be tackled on a regional scale.
And therefore, the way in which we look at the Caribbean in terms of how we think of its security will have to change. We have to police the Caribbean sea border as if it were one country.
Dashan Hendricks, TVJ News.